The meal is now cooked, so now comes the final test. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, as it were. So let's have a taste. Very warm. The oven is completely cold inside, and the meal looks delicious. Let's have a taste and see. Delicious.
Microwaves. A revolution in food preparation. The height of fine dining. And the future of cooking. Or so people thought 50 years ago. Now they're just something to be expected in a kitchen. A tool used for a lazy night off. There was once a glamour to them. A mystique. But over time, that glamour faded. Because ultimately, the allure of the microwave was built on a lie. But before we talk about that, let's step back and talk about how microwaves came to be in the first place. The year is 1945. Our story follows one Percy L. Spencer, a physicist, electrical engineer, and chief of the power tube division, boy, what a name, for the United States Department of Defense. He happened to walk through a radar control room with a candy bar in his pocket, and found that as he walked past a running magnetron tube, the candy bar melted. Unsure if the bar melted from his own body heat, he went on to test other items, such as popcorn kernels, and even an egg, which promptly exploded. The story is probably untrue, or at least heavily embellished. But as it turns out, the effect of microwaves on food had already been discovered. More than a decade prior, at the 1933 Chicago World's Fair, the Westinghouse Electric Company had demonstrated an early microwave. They ran demonstrations in which they showed off foods, like steak and mashed potatoes, could be heated up within a matter of minutes. True or not, however, Spencer would be the man who went on to patent the microwave oven, and it would go on to be introduced to the restaurant industry not long after, in the late 1940s. Microwaves were undeniably a big deal in their heyday. Although frowned upon now, the ability to cook and store large amounts of food for later reheating undeniably made an impact on the restaurant industry as a whole. Even just the immensely faster defrosting capabilities would have been a major benefit to the industry. But microwaves were capable of cooking as well, to a limited extent. Microwaves arguably played a pivotal role in the introduction of fast food, although not necessarily common or useful in the traditional fast food staples, such as hamburgers and pizza. They could have contributed to the lightly less common but equally quick and cheap options, like the rise of Chinese takeout. When microwaves were finally developed and sold for home use in the late 1960s, the uptake was not as great as microwave manufacturers had hoped for, primarily due to their high cost and unwieldy bulk. It was only in the late 1970s, as the technology evolved, that microwaves started to gain traction and became a more common appliance in home kitchens. Perhaps it's due to this slow uptake that microwaves had a more fanciful reputation than they might have deserved.
Say, you gals think you're lucky you can get Swanson TV turkey dinners, but I say Swanson TV turkey dinners are a bigger break for husbands. Now, you take me. I can be early, I can be late, I can bring pals to dinner anytime I please, and get this, my wife never panics. You just heat and serve, and you serve big and hearty slices of moist, tender Swanson turkey with grand giblet gravy and special cornbread dressing and fluffy whipped sweet potatoes with golden Swanson butter and garden fresh peas with more butter. Mother Murphy, lucky me. My wife uses Swanson TV turkey dinners. And make your husband lucky, too. Get Swanson TV turkey dinners, Swanson TV fried chicken dinners, Swanson TV beef dinners from your grocer's big freezer.
And that's where TV dinners come in. Although seen as more than a bit lackluster in the modern age, they were actually somewhat of a luxury back in the day. The concept of an entire hot dinner you could cook yourself within a matter of minutes, complete with side dishes and even dessert, it was more than a little enticing. And therein lies the problem. It sounds good, on paper, in the imagination, but if you heard fanciful tales of an instant dinner, would you expect this?
So good and tasty?
The reality was that TV dinners weren't much more than a soggy mess in a tinfoil tray. This isn't a new reality, but rather the problem from the outset. But because microwaves were so relatively uncommon for those early years, people had no measure of the quality of said food. Companies were, of course, aware of this general sentiment. Advertising was not too different from the modern day, promising fried chicken that's actually crispy, and vegetables that aren't bland and wet. The main difference was the lack of exposure. People were more inclined to believe the advertising, when all they had to go off of were those fantasies. Coinciding with the general excitement for the future that the 1950s and 1960s held, microwaves had become almost revered, put on a pedestal. With instant meals being a long-time staple in science fiction, microwaves seemed to be the first step towards that exciting future. And in a way, they were. Microwaves coincided with the rise of instant food. Unfortunately, the reality of that is that trade-offs have to be made. You can have a nice steak, or a quick steak, but you can't have both. Of course, it's not all bad. There is a reason most of us still have a microwave in our kitchen. Sometimes you don't need a fancy meal. Sometimes something quick and easy is enough. If you need to defrost something frozen, or if you have leftovers, you can heat that up much faster now with microwaves. So there's that to consider. And the most important thing to consider is that instant food is cheap, as it can be mass-produced in large quantities and stored for long periods. Many people are familiar with living off of instant noodles or microwaved oatmeal. For the same reasons it was a space-age innovation, it was also a step towards solving world hunger, in its own mediocre way. It may not be the fancy robotic chef that the people of the past wished it was, but one thing's for sure, microwaves do have their place in our modern way of living. Hey everyone, before I conclude tonight's presentation, I would just like to quickly thank you all for 50,000 subscribers. Halfway to 100,000, huh? It's almost been 2 years since I began this channel, and to be quite honest, I didn't think I'd ever really get this far. So it means a lot that you all found and continue to find value in the videos I make. Now I don't do this as a full-time job, and I don't ever really intend it to be. Since the beginning, YouTube has always been a fun hobby of mine, and a means to express myself creatively and share the things I create with others. And that'll continue to remain true moving forward. It's pretty crazy to think that it's almost been 2 years since I started this channel, and I'm proud of what it's become today. I have more stuff in the works, but you'll need to give me some time before I release them. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed tonight's presentation. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments section below, and consider subscribing if you're new to the channel and want to see more videos like the one you just watched more often. So thank you all so much for what you've all given me, and as always, stay safe, take care, and I'll see you soon.
And now, our feature presentation.